I love them.
Well, Valentine's Day may be over, but the month of February can also be about self-love and self-care.
Here to talk about his new book, 8 Rules of Love, is New York Times best-selling author and podcast host, our friend Jay Shetty in the house.
Thank you.
Looking so great.
It's so
great to see you,
Jay. Before we get to your book, last time you were here, you had your lovely wife with you. How is she doing?
She's doing good. She's doing good. She was taking care of her grandma who was unwell in London for a bit, and she just got back to LA, so very happy to have her back.
We came up with a little clip.
That's
I think that was from your podcast, but on Instagram, I love everything both of you post, kind of putting out your love story, but I can't remember the engagement story. How did you propose?
Oh my gosh. So back then, this was, I don't know, like 9 years ago now, I really believed that you had to do this big grand gesture. So I set it up. We were walking down the bank of the Thames. We were surprised by a person just out of nowhere with a big bouquet of flowers. He handed it to her. Then they went out into song. It was an a cappella group singing Bruno Mars. And then I got down on one knee, asked her to marry me. She said yes. Then we had a dinner on the side of the Thames, but the food was cold. It came late. The table was a bit janky.
Were you panicky?
I was panicking the whole
time. Sign of things to come.
Yeah, exactly. And then we walk around the corner after dinner, and I had this white horse-drawn carriage ready to take us around London.
Oh, wow.
So we went around London. Then we jumped in the train. We're on the way back to our parents' home to tell them, and they already knew it had happened, but we wanted to share it with them. So we went to their home. They open the door looking excited, and all of a sudden it turns to terror, and they look at her and they're like, "Are you okay? What happened to you?" That was the night that I found out that my wife was allergic to horses. She had hives all over her face, rashes. And this was this was a lesson. This was a lesson for me. I had built the Instagram proposal. I'd built the Hollywood, the media proposal. And now when I look back, I'm like, you know what? I would have done it differently. Now, if I knew what I know about love today and what I know about her today, I would have made it more personal.
Hence the book.
Yes.
Congratulations on that. #1, recently knocked Prince Harry.
Bye, Harry. That was big.
And I like it because I got the book, and you there's a pen and there's a paper, and you put people to work right away.
Yes,
right?
you got the special box, that's right.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. What compelled you to focus on writing a book, essentially focusing on love?
Well, I just saw that everyone in my life was happy when their love life was good, and they were sad when their love life was bad, right? Even if their professional life was good, if their personal life was suffering, it made a difference in the quality of their life. And so I feel that relationships can be the greatest source of stress or the greatest cause of our success.
I agree.
And so it has to be a focus point.
It's all anybody wants to talk about, which is great. And you break it up. You said life is a series of classrooms.
Yes.
And the first thing with love you talk about is solitude. Explain what you mean by that.
So I think there's a really interesting idea in society where loneliness has become the enemy. So, for example, if you were a kid at school and you sat alone at the lunch table, you're the loner. If you're the kid where the cool kids don't turn up to your party, you're unpopular. If you go to a wedding without a +1, it's like, oh, poor you, or like, you next. Like, we make people feel bad about being alone.
And it's so important, right?
Exactly.
And isn't it, wouldn't you say there's a difference between being lonely and being alone?
Absolutely. I think we think that being lonely and being alone are the same thing, but that's why there's this word called solitude, which is the strength of being alone. It's the confidence in being alone. It's the joy in being alone.
Right. The next section of your book is about defining love.
Yes.
And what it means to your partner, right?
Well, what I found is that love is one of those words that everyone has multiple definitions for. The Greeks had 7 words. The Vedas that I studied have 5 words. We have 1 word, but it means so many different things. Like, someone could say, I love you, and it means I want to spend my life with you. And someone could say, I love you, and it means I want to spend a night with you. And every definition in between, like, there's a whole spectrum.
That's called the booty call.
And people feel that, right? Like, people say friends with benefits is love. People say being married and celebrating your 25th wedding anniversary is love. So when someone says, I love you, you never say, no, what do you mean by that? Just, can you explain it? Like, you would never say that, but we almost need to know because people are just living up to their definition, not yours.
Yeah. What do you mean by your quote, love to fight and fight to love?
This is really important to me. So when I looked at the research, and I do a lot of scientific research for the book, the science shows that the #1 skill needed in a relationship from the Gottman Institute is not date nights, it's not dinners, it's not vacations, it's learning how to fight.
I totally agree.
Yes. You have to have rules.
You have to have rules.
I've become a better fighter.
Oh, yeah, no, because, and I learned that a while.
Communicator.
Yes, because you're right, you have to have rules, because once you cross that line,
Yeah,
it's hard.
So many of us say things we don't mean, and then
Yeah.
you can't take them back. You hurt someone with your words. And so you have to have agreements and principles around how do we fight? When do we fight? What's a healthy way? And I think when you don't have that, we all have friends who say, oh, we never fight. And then you realize,
They're lying.
yeah, exactly. Many years down the line, something that they were uncomfortable to bring up has now turned into bitterness and resentment.
Yes.
It leads to communication, the fights. Jay, I used to be a pouter. I'm working on myself. I don't pout as much.
I love that.
We'll sit right there. Stick around. We're going to talk about what you can do when a relationship doesn't work out. Also talk about Jay going on tour. Yeah. That's next. I will say, listen to Roddy.
There you go.
Welcome back to Access Daily. That was a clip of Jay Shetty talking about officiating Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck's wedding.
Jay is here breaking down his latest book called 8 Rules of Love, and we're diving right back into
it.
So you mentioned Jennifer and Ben. They're just a couple of the celebrities you worked with over the years. Why do you think a lot of these stars are drawn to
You know what? It's a really tough question to answer, because when I started creating the work I did, it was always just from a place of wanting to serve and help people. And then you just find that everyone's reaching out and connecting, and I just really appreciate it. I feel humbled and honored that I get to call people that I looked up to my whole life friends, and people that I really appreciate spending time with.
It also goes, no matter how much money you have, what you have, everybody just wants true love, or the love that feels right to them. I love in this clip you talk about your ego. Yeah. What's the key to purifying your ego, especially in a relationship?
I think the biggest thing is recognizing the intention behind what someone is saying, not just what they're saying. And when you look at someone, you think, wait a minute, maybe this person wants something good for me. Maybe they want me to win and want me to succeed. But if I just look at it through my ego, it's like, oh, they're trying to one-up me. They're trying to be better than me. And so I think it's listening for the intention behind the word.
And it plays off in every aspect of your life. One thing in the book, it's all about love, but there's a great chapter about when the love is not working, how to let it go.
Yes, I think we're too scared. We think that if you've been together with someone for a long time, we celebrate that. And I think there's nothing wrong with celebrating the length of a relationship, but we also have to look at the depth of that relationship and the quality of that relationship. Sometimes you don't learn anything more from each other. The other person doesn't inspire you anymore. You're not trying to grow anymore together. It's okay to let love go. And I think that we need to normalize that a bit more, because people are forcing themselves to stay in a relationship just to think that that's successful.
Wouldn't you also say, I think people confuse sometimes habit is stronger than love?
Yes.
Right? And they end up because they don't know any different, or they feel sort of secure. It's difficult, though. So what are some of the things that we should maybe double check or be held accountable for before we actually break it off?
Yes. Well, I think one of the first things is, like, are we both even discussing what we want from this relationship? So one question I ask my wife every quarter is this relationship going in the direction you want? If it isn't, what are we both willing to do about it? If it is, what should we keep doing? Right? Having that check-in and saying, well, where's this going? Having a vision, asking, what do we want our relationship to feel like? What do we want it to look like? How do you want to feel when you wake up every day? Let's figure out what that's going to take. I think there's effort, there's energy, there's enthusiasm, and most of us are closing the door too early when we haven't even tried.
Yeah.
It takes work.
It does.
It's work,
It's
which is a lot
daily
of
work.
it. Which is what I like about your book, too. It's very realistic and stuff. It's not just glossing over. Fans can get really excited, Jay, because you're going on a book tour.
Yes.
Do you know what cities you're going to yet?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to
is?
like 13 cities in the US, around 20 cities around the world. All the details are at jayshettytour.com. And I can't wait. It's the first time I'm ever going on a world tour, going to be on stages across the world, and just excited.
And essentially, is it a Q&A, or what can we look forward to?
I think I'm glad you asked that. It's going to be an interactive experience, which means I'm going to be coming out into the audience. People are going to come onto stage. There's going to be games. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be a whole experiment style to it. So I want people to feel a part of the show. So it's not a Q&A or me reading from a book. It's people being involved on the night.
Great to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
Congratulations.
Jay.
All right.
Jay's 8 Rules of Love is available wherever books are sold. Pick it up now.
Coming up, best-selling author Katherine Schwarzenegger is here.
It's a book day.